The basics of the life of Bill Carney is printed on the back of your bulletin, but hardly is the story told. He was a tool and die maker, served in the United States Army National Guard, an avid golfer, enjoyed spending time with his family and friends. A member of the church here, served as president of the church's men's club, a volunteer lay Eucharistic minister and minister coordinator for the 11 o'clock service. Some of you will know the family, his brother James, his wife Paulette, his sons David and Brian, Carney, Philip Christopher Hill, two grandsons, Matthew Carney, Patrick Carney, a granddaughter, Madison Carney, and two brothers, John, Fran, and Don, Michelle, and sister-in-law, Pam. But he's much more than that. Bill was a person that you want in the church. Every church wants somebody like Bill. That's why you guys turned out. You really didn't know why you must be here today. You just knew that you must. You see, every church needs someone like Bill because the church was formulated by somebody like Bill Carney. His name was Paul. Because the early church had so many difficulties to try to plow through. And Paul was there to give them some solutions. I've never known a time when Bill didn't have a solution to something. And that brings us out of the negativity and helps us understand that there's possibly a way to do this. Never known a time that the church wasn't working at some project that Bill didn't volunteer for. He was there, even when he might not feel like being there. He was there because he was a leader. He was one who believed in solutions, not giving in to problems. That's the way the church came about, with that fellow named Paul. He believed in solutions too. I remember the time when, it wasn't that long ago, the men's club, so-called the men's prayer breakfast, but we ate more than we prayed, was having a little bit of difficulty with leadership, and he said, oh, well, I'll do it. And he did a great job. But then he made some proposals that perhaps would strengthen the club. Not everybody accepted the proposals, but one of them was maybe we should have a little time with the Bible before we get started. Maybe we should have a little time reflecting on what God is doing in this church. Maybe we should turn our minds spiritually as well as just getting together for fellowship. Though fellowship is good, the spiritual dimension needed to be there. And Bill would always propose it. I think it was solutions that brought you guys together. They met at a fish fry. You probably don't know that, do you? They met at a fish fry, and nothing really clicked at the fish fry. It wasn't until sometime later when Paulette was moving out of her place there, and Bill came and helped pack and helped move things. See? The solution. And it might have been that more than anything else that brought them together, unless it was the ice cream cone. And you'll tell people about that later. He was a man of solutions, not wanting to look at the negativity of problems, but saying it can be solved. Something can be done. That's why you guys liked him so much. That's why he was able to give you some direction. That's why you eagerly served when he asked you to serve. Because you knew where his allegiance was. and you knew that he was giving you some solutions and not problems. The family can relate to that. There was an occasion sometime back when Wally and Kenny and Brian were, and I don't remember the story real clearly, I think going fishing. Where were you going? You were going golfing. But in any case, you put together this ratty chest. You know, you can get a good cooler that it doesn't cost you too much. But this group didn't. This group decided a cooler could be just as good if you got it from the general dollar store. And what do you need with those metal fancy things when styrofoam will work? And as I recall, and you can correct me, that styrofoam cooler lost the lid at least a dozen times on that trip. And you know how a styrofoam cooler will squeak, 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 just driving you crazy as you're trying to get somewhere with that very nice cooler. But Bill is a solution person. Bill took the tees, and I should have known it was a golf trip because he had a bunch of tees with him, and he drove the tees into the top of that styrofoam cooler to hold the lid on. A man of solutions, not a man to dwell on the problems. And how could he do that? He did it because he was one of those magnetic personalities. I remember meeting him in his last days, and he was just as optimistic as he was at any time in his life because he believed God was in charge. He believed God would take care of him, and God did. But he could laugh at himself. Many of you remember the Patsy Cline story that we did here. You know, Barbara Van Eycken. Gosh, was it 2 years ago maybe? And this was prearranged, of course. And Barbara says, I believe I see an old boyfriend of mine. Oh, Bill Carney, an old boyfriend, would you come up? You remember? And she had you come up, and she sang to him. He didn't mind going out on a limb and doing things if it made people happy, and if it was one of those things that connected him with others. Because when you connect with others, you can relate and you can build. You can build because you have solutions and not problems. Laugh at yourself. Dress up as the Fletcher Follies. You remember the Fletcher Follies? A fundraiser, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
A fundraiser, and Bill dressed up as, well, there were two choices, and you can see how savvy he was. He dressed up as Kenny Rogers, which means the other guy had to dress up as Dolly Parton.
He's here today. Dolly Parton is here in this world.
Really? Where's the mic? You're putting me on now, aren't you?
No, I'm from Tonawanda, New York, where Bill's from.
How did he convince you to do Dolly? You really wanted the other part, didn't you?
I guess he was a little smarter than me.
But that's the way Bill got things done. He got things done by relating to other people and by doing it all in the love of God. You know, we might say there was one thing that he didn't have a solution for. And that's why he's not with us today. But that would be terribly wrong, because he did have a solution. And he did know that the solution was God. He did know that when one comes to Jesus Christ and gives himself and brings others into Christ through his witness, that everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. So today, we're not thinking so much about Bill, I think, as the one to whom he points, and the wonderful relationship that we had with him, because he had a great relationship with him. Amen.